Welcome to the Saturday Night Live Afterparty. This week, we'll be discussing Season 47, Episode 13 of SNL with host John Mulaney and musical guest LCD Soundsystem. I'm John Murray, and I'm joined this week by fellow Canadian truck protest holdovers Steve Finn and first-time panelist Casey Lyons. If you'd like to connect with Casey, you can find him on Instagram at Casey with an E, Lyons with a Y, SYNW. If you'd like to connect with us, you can find us exclusively on Truth Social at SNL Podcast. Enjoy these selected highlights from this week's discussion. If you'd like to watch our full-length, ad-free, sketch-by-sketch review, you can find it exclusively at patreon.com/SNL Podcast. It's our supporters that make this show possible. We are so thankful to everyone who's already come on board. All right, enjoy. Steve Finn, as I live and breathe.
John Murray, look at you.
It has been way too long.
It has been. It's great to see you, and it looks like you're back in your natural habitat.
I am. Well, I've been home for a while. It got pretty cold out there in the forest, so I'm back in my home studio / garage. If only you could see what is behind that backdrop. But yeah, I'm here for the next few months. Then I'm going to be heading up to your neck of the woods. But that's a conversation for another time.
Yes.
What I really want to know is who's this bloke that you brought along to chat SNL?
Oh, I'm glad you asked. This is my good friend Casey Lyons, who I miss
Casey.
dearly. Hello,
Hello, gentlemen.
hello, Casey.
Hello, you lovely man. It's it's an honor to be here.
Yes, man. It's great to see you. I know Casey from back in Toronto. When I lived there, Casey and I, we played in some bands. We were musicians, and we were kind of on the same circuit. And Casey, I always loved running into you and seeing you because, like, at that time in my life, I had no friends that were into SNL at all. So I'd be like, oh, finally, Casey is a mega fan like me. And so I would always just like run to him whenever we'd be like at Rancho Relaxo, where Casey used to serve me drinks. And, I'd be like, man, what'd you think of this? What do you think of Leslie Jones? And, this was at the time when we were hanging out, like that era. And
I don't
Casey,
think I've had
it's great to have
more
you here.
conversations. I don't think I've had more conversations about Leslie Jones with anyone than I have with you. That she was one who, oh my God, she fully won me over.
Yeah. So, you have a career trajectory that has taken you through some comedy circuits in Toronto. Why don't you give us some of your more recent creds on the comedy scene?
Oh Lord. Well, I've been out of the comedy scene in any sort of meaningful way beyond my day job, which is working for the Second City, which is, I guess, very fully entrenched in comedy. But the last thing I did,
Yeah, that's not nothing.
no,
It's not
it's definitely something. But I guess the last thing I did creatively was I wrote a piece of music for Mark Forward. He was he's doing I can't even remember. It's a spot on a show. It's upcoming, but I wish I had more. I wish I was better at plugging, but that's sort of the last thing I've been doing creatively or anywhere near the comedy scene.
Okay.
Now, I want to fill the audience in on a little bit of backstory here, because it's very fortuitous that this is happening tonight. I've known Steve for a while, obviously, because he's been a mainstay on the show since the beginning. So we've been doing this for over 5 years. But I crossed paths with you, Casey, on a totally different project, unrelated to this. I had no idea that you had any affiliation with Steve. And it was just when I was looking up your info to make some show notes or something for the other project that you and I were involved in, that I noticed that you were friends with Steve on Facebook. And I thought,
Right.
well, that's just the most random thing ever. So I asked Steve, and he's like, yeah, I was totally going to do an SNL podcast with that dude before you asked me. And I thought, isn't that just the weirdest thing? They say Canada's a small place, and I feel like we are living up to that reputation. And I think it's going to be fun. There's going to be an appropriate level of Canadian representation. It's a bit of a dude fest, but I'm okay with that. Sooner or later, Catherine can come back and take the reins again. But for tonight, we're going to do it old school. We're going to do it our way. And I'm really just looking forward to breaking down what I think was a pretty fun episode, to not give away the ending. And I'm ready to jump in, but there's one thing that we have to take care of before we get into the episode proper. We have to establish your SNL cred. So I'm going to ask you a couple very lightweight SNL questions, and as long as you don't totally wet the bed on them, we'll proceed with the episode review. So first off, your era. When did you start watching SNL? Like, what got you into it? What is your SNL origin story?
My SNL origin story, I guess I really started paying attention around 89, probably. It's funny, my cast is really, really changes. Like, I mean, my first cast, Dana Carvey, Kevin Nealon. This is just when Dana Carvey was right new. So, Kevin Nealon, John Lovitz. It was going into the really super inspired era of SNL. So that was when I jumped on board, and I was young enough to be. I mean, Dana Carvey was like, "Oh, I'll just go ahead and be him for the rest of my life. That's my ultimate goal." But then you go on and Mike Myers shows up, and then you get into like the Sandler years and stuff like that. But that's I think in my heart it's Jan Hooks and like Nora Dunn and Lovitz and Dana Carvey and Nealon and them.
Wow. Okay.
Great
yeah,
era.
you go back quite a ways. Yeah, we've got your era, but who are your luminaries? Like, who are the touchstone, the top 3 players in all of SNL history that you think define the show for you and are like your go-to people?
Top 3 is cruel, but
isn't it though?
It absolutely is. But of course I go Dana Carvey.
Sure.
Hell, this might actually be easier than I thought. Yeah, Dana Carvey, Phil Hartman, and God, I want to say Farley. I'll go ahead and say Farley. Yeah.
Okay. That's respectable. Last question. We've got your era. We've got your luminaries. But if you were going to be objective, what would you say is the best, most quintessential, just the peak of SNL era-wise, like a run of seasons when the show was at its best?
Has there ever been a run of seasons where it was at its best? I mean, I want to say consistently from, because, at the beginning of the Carvey Nealon kind of era, they were just shaking off the grossness that was the 80s, right?
Right.
So they're fresh and they're anew, and they go from, like, it's a star-making machine at this point, right? Like, so, and that, the definition of what Saturday Night Live is, I think, is exemplified perfectly between like 89 and about 93. When was the
right around when Dana Carvey
times?
left?
Yeah, kind of.
Well, about 95 is when it really, really kind of tanked and was, there's a lot of drama around the show.
And that was when it might as well have been like the 80s again. It was just kind of corporate and gross.
Yeah, it definitely goes in waves. Absolutely. Okay, so Steve, what do we think? Can we roll on here? Has Casey passed the test?
I think he gets a passing letter grade that we will keep confidential.
All right.
Will I receive that in the mail? Or?
Yes, and there will be a refresher exam in 6 months. So we're good for that amount of time.
Okay. Yeah, I'm in agreement. I think we are good to roll on here. Before we jump into the show proper, though, I just want to give a shout out to one of our newest patrons, Amanda Mills from Bellingham, Washington. Obviously, we love our patrons. The show wouldn't exist without them. And anytime someone's willing to chip in, I want to do everything I can to give them an attaboy. And so thank you, Amanda Mills. And with that said, you guys ready to roll into the show? Let's take a look at the monologue. John Mulaney turned an innocent man into a drug dealer. Okay, Casey, a little bit of fresh stand-up from John Mulaney after a tumultuous year. What'd you think of this?
I am an absolute sucker for John Mulaney's stand-up. He is a genius at the craft, and I've heard him deliver sets that I liked less than other sets where I was like, he sounds overworked, and I'm just being an insufferable gatekeeper about it, honestly. But because he's always funny. But tonight or last night, man, it felt like a bit of a return to form. It felt like there was the energy that I remember seeing or hearing in Newintown, and I loved it. I thought it hit all the right notes. It answered all the questions that needed to be answered, and it said, I'm not going to answer some other questions that I don't want to answer, which is nice, I think.
Yeah. I think that's a pretty good take on it. What do you think, Steve? How did this land for you?
Landed pretty well, and I found, I think what Casey was alluding to, I found this interesting about it is, what he was willing to reflect from his personal life in this new era of his career post rehab, and what he chose to kind of skip past. Without much mentioning of his divorce, for example, we simply get a reference to my girlfriend just had a baby. Yeah. We kind of cut to that chase. So yeah, I mean, I know that he has been doing material on his intervention. Some of this stuff he's been working on in the late night circuits for the past recent while. And yeah, as far as it goes, it was, classic Mulaney, but also very different in the sense that his personal life looks very much different. And when you're a comedian that draws so much from your personal life for your material, that's a big rocking of the boat, if you will. Mm-hmm. So for him to go out there and did what he did in an attempt to rebuild it, to view his life through this new lens, I think it was pretty successful. And I loved it. That story that he told about the person he turned into a drug dealer is such a John Mulaney way of looking at the world. Mm-hmm. This is exactly the kind of stuff that I expect from him, the kind of quality, at least.
Yep.
Yeah. So needless to say, I give it thumbs up.
Yeah. Yeah. That was the moment where I said, oh yeah, there it is. That's the caliber of taking his anecdote, distilling it down into a clever notion and just delivering it with gusto. Like that was the moment where I said, oh yeah, this is Mulaney, in not rare form. This is Mulaney in good form. Like the big question that I had going into this is, you have a heck of a year. Are you just kind of like learning to walk again, or have you already kind of got up to speed? And I think he walked out and didn't miss a beat and delivered flawless material that was on par with everything we've seen from him previously. And like you said, Casey, it didn't seem like he was just sort of like burnt out and, phoning it in. Like there was nothing about that. He had a good energy and he was communicating the idea that like, look guys, I'm in a better place. That's all we really need to take away from this is, anyone that loves SNL and loves John Mulaney knows that he's had some drama the last year or so. And so I think a lot of people just wanted to know, is he looking healthy? Is he looking energized? Does it look like he's on an upswing in life? And I bought into it. I felt like he was, and that just gave me the confidence that, okay, good, great. We didn't lose anything with John Mulaney. Like we're never going to get old John Mulaney back. He's found his footing. This is great. We're going to be in for a good show. It said all that to me. That's what I wanted to see. And, as always, just happy to see anyone that's been through some adversity regain their footing. I'm sure everybody knows someone with addiction issues in their life, and you're always rooting for them. And when you get a victory like that and you see someone that's on an upswing, you just gotta be happy. So I was happy.
Couldn't agree more.
Moving right along, our first live sketch of the night. Tango the Monkey Judge presides over a monkey attack trial. All right, Casey, as someone who cut their teeth in the era of unfrozen caveman lawyer, I'm going to let you break this one down.
And obviously that's very much the like the touch point that comes to mind, like from the costuming on down. And like he really does borrow so much from Phil Hartman for this, because the thing that makes this successful, and damn it, this was successful for me. The thing that makes it successful is his ability to skirt the line between being a no nonsense judge and using like a very no nonsense cadence, but also saying monkey things in a monkey way, but still maintaining that authority in his voice. It's beautiful. It's beautifully performed comedy. Yeah. It was a great example of it.
That's fantastic. How about you, Steve? What's your takeaway?
Yeah, it's a brilliant sketch, and I don't take any points away from it for being so comparable to the Phil Hartman character. Yes, it's quite similar in the sense that you're taking, the sophistication and the very deliberate language used in the courtroom, and having this monkey character acknowledge and, actually speak about his own feral ways.
Yes.
It's brilliant. It's just an impossibility that can only exist in a fictional sketch that asks you not to take it seriously. It's just brilliant, and the fact that they use these props in the way, and the very randomness of the paper, the shredded paper, and the cake going on it. It's all very. It's all very like subtly chaotic, just like it is dealing with a monkey and trying to, I guess, socialize with it. And it just kept on going. Cecily entering the mix was a perfect way to just switch the gear and keep this truck on the road. So from start to finish, it was pretty fun to watch. And I see this on a future rewatch. If I care to just fast forward through to see, my favorites of the night, this is one I'll stop for.
Yeah. No, this was a thing of beauty. I'm going to let our audience in on a little secret. I have been on a break with SNL since the new year.
I wasn't going to say anything.
Yeah, I don't know. I think it's worth mentioning because, I feel like after doing this podcast for 5 years and just being so steeped in SNL and watching every episode multiple times in preparation, like at a certain point, you feel like you've said everything you can say about SNL and you've seen every trick SNL has to pull. And between that and just where culture's at, and just like I had mentioned earlier, just how kind of burnt out I was feeling with everything, I felt like I just need to step back. And because Catherine's steering the ship now, I can actually do that. I can take a little break when I need to recharge my batteries. But I turn on this episode and I see the sketch and I say, is this what I've been missing all season? Like, is this the caliber of work they're doing? Because this is genuinely a perfect sketch. The specificity, the truisms about monkey nature and how casually he communicates that. How just like Unfrozen Caveman Lawyer, he's beholden to his primate nature. He can't escape that. He's enslaved to being a monkey.
And that's what I thought was different about this, is that he wasn't trying to deny his nature. He was right. His nature was fully on display. He's displaying ownership over the cake.
Yes.
This is mine now. This is mine now. Yes, he's not trying to deny it. He just simply is a monkey who's also a judge.
He's so at ease with who he is as the monkey judge. But again, that sophisticated, eloquent delivery of these very primal instincts that he has, the genius in that, and the caliber of the writing to bring out those specific notes, the things that we kind of all know about monkey nature, but to just have them rapid fire through his dialogue the way that it did, and just exploring it as competently as they did, and having John Mulaney with just kind of his a little bit smug, self-assured delivery was just so tonally right for this character that at the end of it, I said, oh, well, damn, SNL. Like, okay, I didn't think you were going to surprise me tonight, but you hit the ground running with this one. And darn it all, if I wasn't absolutely won over and in love with this piece. So high marks for me. I think this was a great way to kick off the night.
Couldn't agree
All
more.
right, we're gonna have some head nods, and we'll cap it there because we still got a lot of show to run through here. So let's get into this obligatory musical extravaganza. A naive, churro-craving New Yorker gets a whimsical musical wake-up call from the denizens of the subway. Casey, theatrics, sets, New York inside jokes. This is what we expect from Mulaney. Did you want a fifth outing?
Yes and no, I guess. Did I want one? No, because I don't find myself laughing at these anymore. I laughed at the spectacle of the first one. The first one is very, very beautifully executed. And honestly, this kind of benefits from the same kind of inside joke. Like, yeah, we're SNL. We do big bloated things and we make you sit through them for 10 minutes. And part of that is why it's so funny. And the fact that they can spend so much money on a sketch like this, that on its face is like, cut it out. Stop doing this sketch. It's over. It is part of what makes me just enjoy it so much, to see the next little set piece that they cart out and go, see, we didn't need to do this. But that's definitely part of the charm.
Yeah. Steve, hot take?
Well, the post has just kept moving. Every time they do one of these, after the first one, we're asking, the next time he hosts, will we see another version of this? Then we saw that, and then we got to the trilogy, and we're like, are we going to cut it off there, call it 3, and then, a 4th and a 5th? And now at this point, it would be weird not to do one almost. And if they're starting to show their age and becoming a little bit stale, and you're in a position where like people expect you to do another one, I don't think you can win in that scenario. You either awkwardly bow out or you deliver something that's going to make you say, oh, I like diner lobster better. So yeah, if we're not already there, we've at least been moving towards that. And it's always going to be a great source of sets and costumes and, showcasing the vocal talents of our cast. So it's always going to have things to enjoy. I guess, New York is a big place, so there's going to be a lot of things to pick apart and, explore the minutia of weird, uniquely New York things.
Yeah. SNL does paint itself into a corner sometimes when they allow themselves to set expectations that fulfill fan expectations, but at a certain point, if the creative well is running dry, are you creating the best content you could by forcing yourself to have to revisit what's come before and stick with tradition? It's always tricky, but SNL wouldn't be SNL if they didn't drive recurring sketches into the ground like that. That is kind of SNL's thing in so many ways. And it is part of the charm. People do tune in because they're hoping they're going to get another outing with that, whatever it is that catches the cultural zeitgeist that people are talking about. They want to know if they're going to do it again the next week. And that gets people to tune in. So if they didn't do it, and if they didn't give people water cooler talk, SNL is not doing its job. So I'm of two minds, because I feel like there's value in having like traditions that certain hosts go back to when they come. And we've seen that like with Justin Timberlake, he'll have another outing with the Lonely Island and they'll do like another Mother Lovers or whatever. Like they'll do a run of those. Or other friends of the show hosts, they'll revisit what was a big hit from their previous outing. So this is the show's DNA. They have to do it. But at the same time, I wish they'd never done the second one. I was happy that the second one held the bar high production wise and that, they still found fun, fresh musical things to goof on. I like the sketch for the production value of it and just the ambitiousness of it. But in hindsight, I wish they hadn't done it and just kind of pulled the Band-Aid off with Mulaney's second time hosting and said, no, Mulaney is such a wealth of creative ideas and we can have so much fun with this guy. We're not going to just do the same thing over for fan service. We're going to give you something fresh. I wish that was the decision that had been made back then because it wasn't. Now it's inevitable. And so now all I'm doing is looking at it and saying, okay, are they keeping the bar high? Are they like lyrically, are they mining show tunes for something fun and amusing to me? And I feel like it ticked all the boxes that these have to tick. Just in my mind, I just don't think it needs to exist. That said, they did Skid Row from Little Shop, which is one of my favorite musicals of all time. And so, I gotta say, I was grinning and just really, really jazzed with some of their choices on this one. And, 80 as Subway Jesus, there's still so much good stuff that they find that it's hard to be too sour on it.
Oh, yeah. And Mulaney saying, "Can you even do South Pacific anymore?"
Right. Yeah. It's now turning inward a little bit too in some regards. So, I want something fresh from Mulaney. He did his 5-timer stint. If ever they had another opportunity to put it to bed, this would be it. Right. Like, let's cap it here. We did our first 5. He's got like a whole other year or 2 to figure out something else from the vault that he wants to bring back. Let's do something new next time. This one I'm okay with, I guess. That's where I'll land.
Tom Hanks doesn't do Mr. Short-Term Memory anymore.
Yeah. But there's just as many cases where we could show them going back to recurring characters way more times than is necessary. So, it cuts both ways.
That's the second life of a sketch now, is when it's been done so many times that when it comes on, you groan and go,
right.
Stop for doing this again.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, well, we got a groan out of you anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If Reese DeWatt gives you nothing else, he'll give you a groan.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I just wanted to mention one more thing. It was interesting that Pete Davidson wasn't there for the night because he's often the character that Andrew Dismukes is stepping in to do. Now, he doesn't do a whole lot for it. He's mostly just there to take it all in, but he's still on the cast. And, we've seen regular sketches where people, like, for example, when Will Forte left the cast, Taron Killam started putting on the glasses and being the announcer for What's Up With That. Mm-hmm. We've seen that before, but it's interesting when you're still on the cast and somebody is now filling in for your recurring role. I guess he's keeping people safe from Kanye by not being in the building. But if I did more research, I'd probably know what he was up to and why he wasn't there that night. But I just thought it was interesting.
Yeah. I think he's off shooting something, but I would have expected him to fly home for Mulaney's outing
especially for Mulaney, knowing how close they are.
Right. Yeah. So the inside baseball is when Pete was going through a rough patch a few years ago, Mulaney was kind of his mentor because he understood, some of those same issues that Pete struggles with. So they did some touring together. I think they toured with Judd Apatow for a little while. And it was just like touring therapy for Pete, and Mulaney was just like this big brother figure. And it was like how wholesome and wonderful that community could kind of rise to the occasion for Pete. And I did not expect a Mulaney outing where Pete wasn't in the building, but hey, it is what it is. He could be like, in Australia somewhere shooting something, and there's just no way. You don't know what the constraints are, but I was surprised for what it's worth. Yeah.
They did a feature on Update years ago about the mentorship.
Yes. And Mulaney was there, right? Like they tag teamed it.
Yeah. Mulaney like showed up on the thing. So I was like, oh, great. They're going to do a thing now where Pete Davidson's going to mentor Mulaney. That'll be the joke. And it wasn't
meant to be.
Yeah. Clint Eastwood has another movie out that they could totally harp
yeah,
on.
right.
Sure.
It's all synergy.
Yeah. It's perfect.
If you want to see our full sketch-by-sketch review, search for SNL Afterparty on Patreon or subscribestar.com.
We want to get into our ratings and reviews.
Okay.
Steve, moment of the night.
Ooh, moment of the night. You could go with like the more somber moment, maybe when the camera tilts and you see that it actually spells Kiev on the candles.
Mm-hmm.
But if you want to go for a comedic one, you have some great visual gags from the COVID conversation sketch. I mean, what I keep thinking about is that little elevator that they built for Kate's head. And if not for that, then it's another great costume move for Kate when she played the puddle. There's there's so much, but if I had to choose, I think I want to give it to John Mulaney for making a joke about Dan Aykroyd vodka.
that was pretty classic.
It's not the Tracy Morgan. What is it? Aquarium water?
That's his tonic.
It's the Dan Aykroyd vodka. Which, fun fact, since it's Canadian night on the SNL podcast, made in Chatham, Ontario, about half an hour down the road from where I'm at.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and Dan Aykroyd hails from Ottawa and is often kicking around these parts. He's actually a surprisingly easy guy to track down. If ever anyone wanted to talk to him, he is, he's just kind of living his life out here in Ontario these days.
Okay.
So, for what it's worth, Dan Aykroyd vodka, it's made in my backyard.
And John Mulaney is an admitted fan.
Yes. Okay. So, we got a moment of the night from you. How about you, Casey?
Moment of the night, that's difficult. I almost want to say Conan doing the drinky because, again, it's something that I love. That as a comedy fan, I'm on the outside looking in the window, and I love the kind of brotherhood of comedy, and I love seeing that. I love seeing it be so low stakes for these incredibly rich, incredibly successful, talented people who have nothing to prove. They can stand on the stage at SNL and completely flub a line and just be like, I don't care, I'm very rich. And there's that kind of like flippant malaise that I enjoy so much on that stage specifically. So I want to say that. There's a line, though, in the musical when A.D. Bryant's Beer Hat Jesus comes out. And hold on, let me see if I can find the line. Yes, he says, Jesus Christ wearing Crocs. Why does she have a spider in a box? And man, I was like, yep, that got me. So I think that line might be my moment of the night.
Fair enough. I'm going to give it to the moment in Mulaney's monologue where he reassured me that he hasn't missed a beat. He brings his whole first story back around. Here's the stinger. I turned an innocent man into a drug dealer, as opposed to drug dealers turning innocent people into drug addicts. What a just fun notion to tack down in your mind and craft a whole piece around, and then have such an elegant way to put a bow on it. It just said to me, oh, look, John Mulaney. He's John Mulaney. He's still John Mulaney. He's still doing his thing. And I'm eating it up. That's what set the night off right for me. And it didn't disappoint from thereafter. So that's got to be my moment.
Yeah, he puts his thesis on the end of his jokes at times.
Yeah.
Which is quite the opposite of what a lot of comics do. Sometimes they'll give you that, elevator pitch version of their joke. and then expand, but to like guide your audience to that one line that sums it all up and make them say, huh, yeah, everything you just told me basically supports that notion. That's classic Mulaney right there.
Yeah, it's just well-crafted stand-up. It just shows that he's on top of his game, and I like it when I see it. Now, best sketch. Casey, what do you got?
Monkey Judge.
Yeah.
Hands down, Monkey
Fair
Judge
enough.
is the best sketch. It had everything. It was perfectly executed. Best sketch.
Yep. What do you got, Steve?
That is hard to go against, this was the most fun, the most cleverly written, and it was just a perfect vehicle to cater to John Mulaney's style of line delivery. I can't think of a better character for this host to play.
Absolutely.
Everybody involved was great too. So yeah, you gotta love this.
Yeah, no, it was an excellent sketch. Great idea, perfectly realized, and beautiful performances all around. And Mulaney he struck the exact right tone for that character. It is my best sketch as well. There's no contest. That is one that people will revisit. Like that is a high watermark, I think, maybe for this season. It's certainly one of the best. But we don't need to dwell on it. Let's talk about our MVP. Steve, what do you got?
MVP, you know what I'm going to say. It's John Mulaney. He is like a very highly magnetic force. And, he goes into the metallic fluid pool that is SNL, and they just start dancing. There is definitely a gravitational pull to that man in this setting.
Mm-hmm.
And this whole show just seems to form around him. And you get one of the most undeniably signature styles of an SNL episode. For all the things that are similar from week to week, there's so much here that's just, you would only expect from a Mulaney episode. And yeah, what are you going to do? Pick someone else? I dare you. Go ahead.
All right,
you
Casey,
next.
I dare you. What do you got?
I am just going to buckle under the pressure. But it is
Sure you were.
It's absolutely Mulaney. I mean, he's one of those people. He's like Odenkirk to me, or Conan. He's one of those people who's there's so much Saturday Night Live in their DNA. You can feel so much SNL coming off of them, and it makes you love them. It gives you. It's just like you said, that gravitational pull. But at the same time, they are absolutely their own definable brand, their own definable type of comedy and of what they do. And Mulaney brought that in full force to this episode. Like he swept in with his, nonchalant, like, whatever. I'm one of the funniest people. I'm one of the best voices of comedy. And he brought that, and he just allows you, but he brings you into experience that. He doesn't just show you there are comedians who are very closed off. I'm very funny. I'm in this little glass case. I'm unapproachable. I feel like his thing is very approachable, and it makes him all the more endearing.
Okay.
Boom.
Yeah.
Very
now, I think there could be a case to be made for Kenan and Cecily. I think they both did some great work.
I was going to say Cecily, but it's Mulaney.
But yeah, you guys are right. And there's no way to not land on Mulaney. There's a fun documentary. I can't remember if it was James Franco's or a different one, but there was a little peek in on Mulaney and Hader, I think, just on writer's night, like working overnight in a little box office on the 17th floor. And I remember just being awestruck at how easily they could play off each other and build on each other's ideas and pull in so much like cultural or media references. It's like they'd seen every movie ever made, every musical ever made. And it just like, it informed their ability to on the fly in the moment, lob each other brilliant little things to bat around and explore and build on. And I just remember thinking, oh, you know what? That's what makes these sketches. It's not just someone toiling away in front of their computer, like a single-minded approach. It's when you get people that can just collaborate and energize each other and bring the best out of each other and find those fun little ideas and just goof on it till it turns into something. And I have no reason to assume that I know what goes on the 17th floor when Mulaney's there, but I feel like he must still want to be there on writer's night just to give as much of his magic to the show as he can.
Mojo. Yes.
And I think that's why you get so much specificity in these sketches and just so much that capitalizes on his presence and his voice. I think it's because he wants to be there and he's making sure he's inserted into that process and giving everyone what he can. I think he's very generous that way. And so because of that, you can't make an argument for anyone else. When Mulaney's there, unless the show is like a total stinker for some reason and he's never turned in a bad show, there's just no one else you can go with. So yeah, Mulaney for me too. All right, big question, guys. On a scale of classic, great, decent, weak, or train wreck, how would you rate this episode? Casey?
Great.
Beautiful.
Great
Well put.
episode. It could be a classic, but it didn't have, I don't think it had a definitive classic sketch. Monkey Judge is gorgeous comedy, and I will revisit it, but yeah, I feel comfortable with great.
Okay. Steve?
Yeah, great sounds good. Does good sound great? Stay tuned. I think that's appropriate. I was looking for a reason to just let me bump it up, but I don't think there's anything that stands out. We're still in the COVID area, like I said, and all that stuff I said about this being a new sub-era of COVID. Yeah, that would be like the strongest argument I would have to saying that this is culturally relevant enough to get that extra stamp of classic approval. It's just not enough to merit that. So it's too weak an argument. So great is, I think, where this should be. And yeah, you know how rare it is to get a classic out of any of us that do this show. So hey, man, it's like a Michelin star, right? You know, if your restaurant gets one, even just one, you're still going to be proud of it.
Sure. I think Mulaney is a classic host. And I mean, he's a 5-timer now. Like I think the world agrees that Mulaney is in the pantheon of great hosts now. But that said, the thing that keeps this from being great is that they didn't break new ground. His first outing could be qualified as classic because you saw so much stuff that you just don't see week over week on SNL that he was really responsible for crafting, like Diner Lobster or the TV show from the 80s, Switcheroo.
Oh my God. That is a gorgeous sketch. That's
Isn't
I think
it?
my favorite sketch from that episode.
Yeah.
And the fact that the little boy in the sitcom is Andy Conan.
Right. So that kind of stuff, when you get it for the first time and it just really hits you, that makes for a classic episode. Tonight was Mulaney's greatest hits. It was just kind of welcome back Mulaney, and a greatest hit show just isn't enough to get it over the top, but it was the most even Mulaney show. And he was in top form. So there was so much to like about this, but it didn't break new ground. And for that, it can only be great. So I think we're all in lockstep on this, guys.
I don't remember what we gave John Mulaney's first episode, but I just realized sometimes, episodes can retroactively earn a classic rating, 5.
Once you see where it actually ends up in our cultural fabric.
Yeah.
So do you think if you didn't give the first one a classic, it's a classic now?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, I think for what what kind of stamp and the sheer frequency of him hosting,
Right.
it's reminiscent of like the Bucks and the Carlins and the people that just hosted like almost a couple of times per season. Yeah.
Well, maybe not the Carlins, but
Yeah,
the Buck
well,
Henrys for sure.
Yeah. I spaced on examples, but they're out there.
Well, there's Steve Martin.
There's Steve
That one
Martin.
could have come to mind.
Shut up. There's Alec Baldwin. Okay, I know some. But yeah, if we could look back and know that was the start of something like that,
Right.
that would definitely be where we would put a classic if we're talking about Mulaney episodes only.
Right. It wasn't necessarily obvious that he planted his flag on that first episode and he was going to be, the next go-to guy for the show to mine as like a 5-timer, especially in the course of like 5 years. That is a feat. So, that's all well put. Casey, do you have any other final brilliant thoughts on this show that you want our audience to mull over?
No, I try not to have brilliant thoughts about the show because it's one of those things for me that I refuse to let it become anything other than a joy. I know a lot about about SNL. I read Tom Shale's book and I do need to know those things. I do need to know the little behind the scenes. I need to know how much coke was being done, and in whose office. But I'll never let it be anything other than an absolute joy. So I don't watch the show with my little critic's hat on. I watch it with my little 10-year-old dork, comedy dork hat on, and it works every time.
Wonderful.
I wonder what that.
I just said a billion words to say absolutely nothing.
You conveyed your enduring love of the show, and that's all you needed.
I think that's what I was trying to say.
Yeah.
You
No, I
fit in
think
well
that's
here.
I think we'll give you the final word on that, Casey. I think that's a great place to leave it tonight. But before we go, we need to get the word out about what you're up to, where people can find you, if anyone wants to collab. What would you like people to know about, where they can find your stuff online or learn more about you?
Well, you can find my stuff. I do a lot of themes for podcasts and things like that. I actually did the theme for Jamie Dew's Saturday Night Live podcast.
Right. Yep.
Yeah. So check me out at CaseyLyonsProductions.com. That's my official site. Otherwise, CLP Beats on Twitter. But that's just a lot of inane jokes that didn't need to be made. That's my whole MO
Those are
on
some
Twitter.
of my favorite jokes on Twitter. I'll have you know.
the horribly inane ones.
Yes.
Very good. All right. Well, gentlemen, I am so glad that after as many years as I've been batting this around, like with Steve always trying to just make sure that you were always somewhere on our radar, on our back burner for when we could make this happen. I'm glad that it finally did. It's a shame that, Catherine had to be offed in order to make this happen. But I think,
oh God, did you kill someone?
You do what you got to do. She was a hard pass on Casey. So we had to part ways.
Look, I understand.
We took care of her. Okay.
Yeah.
That's all we'll say on the matter.
But in all seriousness, Catherine will be back very, very soon. I'm assuming next week. She's just tending to family business, traveling, doing something. I don't know. I don't pry, but she's going to be back to cover. Who we got? We got Oscar Isaac next week, right?
Yeah,
I believe so.
Moon
Yes,
Knight
and
himself.
Charlie XCX is the musical guest. So for all the Catherine fans out there, she is still part of the show. You won't have to endure another John-hosted episode for the foreseeable future. So hopefully that's good news. And with that, I think we'll call it a night. Thanks to Steve Finn and Casey Lyons. And thanks as well to our most generous patrons, Neil Weinstein, Justin Gardner, Grace Kogan, and Brian Clark. If you're enjoying our show, please subscribe on YouTube or wherever better podcasts can be found. Your subscription helps us grow and your support is greatly appreciated. We'll be back in 1 week when SNL returns with host Oscar Isaac and musical guest Charlie XCX. But until then, this has been episode number 154 of the Saturday Night Live After Party podcast. I'm John Murray. Good night, and have a pleasant tomorrow.